broke down on the way home from the factory. We're stranded for 60 hours on the side of the road. So we literally ended up with a 50,000 pound brick in our parking lot.
What caused you to make the big step up?
My wife was not comfortable in the King Aire.
If you don't want to talk about it now.
How does a bank loan work?
When you were shopping for your Newell coach, did you explore other options?
We did. So we definitely looked at Marathon. I think the Prevost chassis is the smoothest riding machine out there.
What caused you to go with the Newell coach over, say, a Marathon coach like in the video? Today's video is loaded with awesome information. I have a chance to sit down with the owner of this coach, who is the youngest person that I've ever met that's purchased a brand new Highline custom motor coach. The owner of this coach has an incredible story about how he got to this point. I'm gonna ask some hard questions. This is definitely a video that you're gonna wanna watch. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Adam.
Hello, everyone.
We're sitting in your 2022 Newell coach. This coach has more customizations than any other coach I've seen. You've done this at kind of a young age. Are we all right to talk with the folks on YouTube about your age?
Oh, we are, absolutely. So I'm 43 and have found myself in a very fortunate place to be able to do one of these things. It is very, very fortunate. We've had some experiences before that led us to here. We never thought that we'd be anywhere close to here, but circumstances have definitely helped, and we've been able to do this. And the experience of being able to customize and design this was far better than I could even imagine. It was just fantastic.
So leading up to designing this magnificent coach, how did you get your start in RVing?
Growing up, it was very interesting. Our family friends owned a RV dealership. This is back in Canada. It was luxury motorhomes in a little town called Carleton Place where I grew up. And basically just hanging out with this family, they would take us on trips just for weekends or whatnot. And I really got the hook. It was just amazing to be able to load in all your stuff and head out for the weekend. And I really enjoyed that experience, and I think that I caught the bug from that. I definitely am excited to get this back to Canada and show the Devereaux family what they have done to me, and it's just awesome. So very, very proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We all get bit one way or another, and then it ends up at this level for some of us. Now, what was your first RV?
First RV was a King Aire, a 2018 King Aire. We bought that November of 2017. We researched probably 5 years before finally settling on the Newmar product line. When we actually went to the factory, we met with Michelle Howard for the design team. My wife and I flew out there, and I was set on the London Aire. I thought it checked all the boxes. It was the best value. You got all these bells and whistles, and very, very excited, and had my heart set on it. As soon as we walked into the design meeting, she was showing us the different cabinet styles or whatever, and my wife was like, "Well, what's that one? It looks more modern, which is our style." And she's like, "Oh, that's the King Aire." And my wife's like, "Oh, I want those ones." I'm like, "Those are $300,000 cabinets at this point." But we ended up going with the King Aire. It had, a lot of the features that I liked as well. It had fully loaded, right? So being our first RV, we didn't know what we needed or what we didn't need. Did we need heated floors? Turns out they were awesome, and they came with the King Aire. So it was really a lot less options to really go through with the King Aire, and yeah, good choice to do that. Overall, we just had a less than stellar experience with Newmar, really, not just the King Aire. So.
Yeah, now your King Aire was a beautiful spec, and I did make a video of that when you sold it. The team at Premium Coach Group here in Gilbert, Arizona, helped you sell that coach. And I'll leave a link to that video in the description below so you can see Adam did customize that King Aire as well. Did some really cool stuff to that as well. But,
we tried to do what we could do within the boundaries of the Newmar enterprise, which is not a lot, but we were able to choose the fabrics and the materials as close to what we wanted. We actually, I think it was the only King Aire they've ever done with Baystar countertops. We like that countertop color better than any of the other ones, and we ended up with Baystar countertops in the King Aire, but it just went with our style and what we were trying to achieve within that. So it's definitely a one of one.
So your whole overall experience, you weren't too happy. What were the pluses and minuses of your Newmar experience?
The King Aire had some issues. We actually broke down on the way home from the factory, and were stranded for 60 hours on the side of the road. We just always had issues with it, and most of those issues were electrical. My problem wasn't with the King Aire, it was with the experience we had with how Newmar took care of us, or in this case didn't take care of us. And as a company owner that sells and installs electronics, stuff always breaks. It just, things are mass produced, and it might not be our fault that a TV broke or something like that, but it's how you take care of it is what makes us stand out from some of our other competitors. And Newmar just didn't really put that effort into taking care of us. After spending $1 million on their top of the line product, they sort of suggested that, well, you get what you pay for. I'm like, well, we paid a lot. Why are we not getting some of this service? Why can't you back us up? Why can't you help us out and take care of this? And we drove the King Aire back to them, and we left it for 4 months for them to diagnose it and spend the time. We're like, listen, it's an issue, and we don't know what it is, but we want to give you the time to find it and to fix it properly. And 4 months later, they said it was fixed, and it continued to have issues even on the way home. So,
what was the biggest issue that you had with your King Aire?
It had electrical gremlins. So things would always die on us. We have a temporary parking spot at our office in between using it, so we keep it there for maybe 4 or 5 days in between events. And even with the automatic generator, it wouldn't turn on enough, and it would end up killing itself. And then when it kills itself, it says, let me try to save myself by merging with the chassis batteries, and then it would kill those. So we literally ended up with a 50,000 pound brick in our parking lot. We had to buy a 7,500 watt generator, we had to buy a 200 amp jump start pack, and we were constantly jumping this thing to get it alive again. And just definitely that was not in the brochure of King Aire usage.
Yeah.
So super frustrating. It turns out to be one of the inverters had a bad module in it, and it wasn't communicating properly, and it would kill itself. So we finally took it up to Oregon. They had it for another 3 months. They found the issue with the inverter. We bought a new inverter. I didn't even want to call Newmar and ask them, can you send me a $1,500 inverter? Just bought one. They put it in, and it had been working perfectly fine ever since. And we got it. Chad, the Premium Coach Group solution, and I have to say thank you to Andrew. I would never have found or heard of Premium Coach Group without watching your video. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So I contacted Chad, and I said, I got this coach, and Andrew's, recommended you, and, what do you think? And he said, sounds like a great opportunity for him. He could get us more money than I think I could get on my own even. So I was super pleased with that. And it was up in Oregon at the time. I had just finished getting it serviced, and I said, okay. And then sort of forgot about it till the next day. My, it's a Blackview camera, dash cam, alerted me my coach is in motion, and Chad had already got a guy to Oregon, hopped in the coach, and was driving it down to Arizona. I was like, oh my God, that's just crazy. And then, Chad went through it with a fine-tooth comb and worked out all the details, and literally like 2 months later said, sold your coach. So
Yeah, I think that coach got famous while he was here too. James AZ Expert got 6 million or 8 million views on
5.9 or something like that. Just
on
crazy.
TikTok. So it was a really cool King Aire build, but they were able to sell that coach pretty quickly and efficiently.
Before my deadline, so I was just very happy, and I literally did nothing towards it. Chad just took care of everything, and I emailed him the title, and he sent me a check, and it was great. So I can't thank Chad enough for taking care of getting rid of that for us. And as I say, I think it's a fantastic coach. I think it's definitely sorted now, which had it been sorted right from the beginning, we would not be sitting here in this 2022 Newell. I can guarantee you that, because this was quite a financial upgrade, and the King Aire was awesome, but it was kind of a park princess. When it was plugged in, it was awesome, and just sitting there, totally fine, but going down the road and parked when it wasn't plugged in, it had some issues, but I think those are all sorted now.
So you made a huge step up. I mean, the King Aire is the top of the production coaches, but to jump to this level of coach, what caused you to make the big step up?
Well, to be honest, Andrew, it was you. So, sitting in bed one day, scratching my head about what we're going to do with this King Aire, up pops this Andrew Steele video of why does a marathon cost $1.5 million more than an Essex, and watching that video, you close that bay door and it popped back open. I'm like, yep, that's where I'm at, so I guess I gotta spend another $1.5 million on top of the King Aire. So I'm sure, Andrew, you'll leave a link to that video.
Yeah, I'll leave a link.
One,
that was one of my first videos titled "Why is a Prevost Marathon Coach $1.5 million more than a Newmar Essex?" Now, I was comparing, a Prevost to the Newmar product. Now, we're in a Newell coach, which is completely different from the Prevost, but I always put Prevost and Newell in the same category. What caused you to go with the Newell coach over, say, a marathon coach like in the video?
Well, I think the category is production versus custom, right? So every coach that falls into that production level, whether it's a Tiffin or an Integra or a Newmar, those are all one set of coaches that get built on a factory line that are trying to do it as quick as possible. The Prevost, whether it's a Liberty or a Newell or a Marathon, they take their time to do it right, and it takes time to build a quality product. So when they're building a King Aire in 9 days to do the whole inside plus paint, and this coach took 6 months, which is what a coach of this caliber and complexity should take to build, that's the main difference. So I think Newell did a great job. I think that most of the other up converters, I guess you call them, would do a much better job than the production style coaches. Also, just getting things like no fiberglass, right? Production coaches are fiberglass, caulking, and then a steering wheel. Like, literally, those are the main ingredients of a production coach. And this coach has no caulking on it, no fiberglass anywhere, except, I guess, the front and end cap.
Yeah.
Everything's all aluminum skin. The ceiling, the roof is all aluminum. It's just a completely different animal. And some people don't appreciate that, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with production coaches. It just, when you have incredible OCD like I have and an engineering background, and I can see some of these things, and we happen to be fortunate enough to be able to upgrade to one of these.
Now, when you went to the Newell factory, what was your impression of the Newell factory?
Definitely a workshop. It's like Santa's workshop, where you got these guys that are very craftsman-like, and they have this job to do, and they all work together as a team. Like, we had guys that were bouncing from one coach to another because they have this expertise, or they have a skill set that they know how to work on the back of the dash better than others. So they would constantly, and everybody had each other's back, and it was very team. Even just during the tour, we could tell that this was a family of workers that were tasked in building these unbelievable products in the middle of nowhere. Literally, it's Commerce, Miami is Commerce, Oklahoma is the middle of nowhere, and they're in Miami, which is right next door. It's crazy that they find these craftsmen and they can build that team. It would definitely not be the place that you would want to pick on a map to start something like this, but they've developed over 50 years into this team that does a great job.
When you were shopping for your Newell coach, did you explore other options?
We did. So we definitely looked at Marathon. We're based on the West Coast, so Marathon just being 10-hour drive or an hour and a half flight away, super easy to get to, as opposed to Miami, Oklahoma. Very difficult place to get to. So we definitely looked at Marathon and a converter. One of the major issues we had with the King Aire was ride quality. My wife was not comfortable in the King Aire. We had major suspension issues. We changed the suspension on it. We had just an uncomfortable feeling driving the coach. It had been back to Spartan chassis even for them to look at it, and it just wasn't, we didn't feel safe. So we went and looked at the Prevost. It's a great riding machine. It is super, super smooth, to the point where I didn't think that the steering wheel was connected to the road in any way, shape, or form. It's just like driving a pillow, which if you're a bus driver or that kind of thing and that's what you like, that's great. I have to say it rides better than this. I will give them props. I think the Prevost chassis is the smoothest riding machine out there. I think the difference is maybe 5%. Also, I haven't driven a Newell on Oregon roads, which are basically, they make silk roads.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
My joke is, if you put me in the trunk of a car and drove me from California to Oregon, I will tell you when we cross the border. It is unbelievable, those
roads. True story, yeah.
So driving the Marathon on the best case circumstances, and then going to Miami, Oklahoma, and driving a Newell for the first time on the back roads of Miami definitely was a rougher ride, but nowhere near. I feel safe in this, and now that we've driven it 1,000 miles, I definitely feel safe in this. And it is heavier than the King Aire for sure. So I will give them props. What they had in Marathon, I think, was a very good engineered product. They have a lot less to do when they build a Marathon, right? The Prevost, the electronics, the chassis, the house is all done. They're literally putting some slides that another company's already put in, but they do the interior finishing work, and they do a great job of the interior finishing work. But overall, I don't think that they were giving us the feeling that their design was what we wanted. It's absolutely a great design. They're beautiful coaches, but what we were looking at, and especially with the technology and the flexibility that I had in my mind that we wanted to do at the time, I don't feel I was getting a great reception to doing some of that stuff. They have a schedule, and they don't want to deviate from that schedule or cause any hiccups. So, and you can even tell that from their pricing strategy, where they come up with a number and they kind of keep you stuck within that number. They don't want to go too far in any extreme because they want to keep on their schedule. So.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that a little more? I know someone actually asked me in the comments section yesterday, I believe, to try to explain more the process of pricing, and there's not very many people at this level that have shopped for $2 million product that are willing to talk about the numbers side of it. Can you tell us about what kind of discounts Marathon Coach offered? And then I also want to ask you about, how big of a deposit do you need? People are curious to get started. Can you talk about any of that at all? Or
I can mention a couple of things. So, and to be honest, anybody can walk into Marathon or Newell and ask these questions. So it's not proprietary information or whatever. So when we went to Marathon, they said, our coaches are $2.3 million. I said, okay. What kind of, and that's based on a floor plan. You have like 6 options for floor plans that you choose from based on, if it's the Prevost with the Prevost slides, or if you go with the quad slide, or the XL2, or the H3. So they have, choose your chassis, choose your slides, choose your layout, here's your price. Very simple. And, just being a consumer that doesn't have $2.3 million laying around. I said, is there a discount? And they said yes, and it's a pretty significant discount that I didn't negotiate for. I just asked the question. And I said, okay, well, what about like finishes and, oh, you do that with the designers, which is how this works. I said, okay, and what kind of options or upgrades or costs are associated with that? And they're like, there really isn't. It's kind of a flat fee. Once you choose the product, we give you the discount, we agree on a number, it's just a price, and we work within those guidelines. And I felt that if I wanted a specific faucet or a specific upgraded leather, that I should have to pay for that and would expect to pay for that. And they kind of were driving me back to, well, everything's all included unless there's a very one-off, you have to have a $10,000 faucet, we're going to charge you for that. But everything they kind of try to keep within this budget. And I think I was struggling with how do I maximize the value to me of getting all of the products and the qualities and the finishes that I want while staying within this budget. Are they going to only offer me things that fall under their budget, or are they going to offer me the whole book? So Newell offers you basically the whole book. What do you want? And this is how much it costs. And are you willing to pay for that? Yes or no? If not, we'll find something else, or yes. And I really like that complete breakdown of every price and every option and everything. My, final bill at Newell was probably somewhere in the 20 pages.
Wow.
It's a booklet of an invoice, but everything's line item there, and everything that I paid for is on there, and everything that I didn't pay for was credited back. They have a standard price that comes with, most of the features, and we chose not to have window awnings. So there's a line item that says window awnings negative X number of dollars. So everything's pointed out, and there's no question about what you got, what you paid for. And that's how my company, we offer our customers, is everything's line item. So if you say you didn't get something that we sold you, then it's not on the invoice, guaranteed. So with that in mind, they could play the game where like you want, ultra suede couch, so they give you this premium level material on your couch, and then in the background they're like, okay, well, we're gonna have to do plastic shower enclosure, whatever, because we've given them this budget and they've spent too much there, so we're gonna have to make up for that somewhere else. And I didn't want to be constantly second guessing myself, where are they cutting corners, or where am I cutting corners? If you want it and are willing to pay for it, it's up to you.
Can you and I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, I'm curious, to how, if people are curious, to start this design process, did you have to pay for the coach in full before it was designed? Did you give them a deposit?
So that's always an option to pay for it in full. All the companies that I talked to were very happy to just take a full payment. But unfortunately for us, we didn't have to do that. I think Marathon, there was a lower deposit, but then there was more progress payments as the coach progressed. And to be honest, they have to do that because they're buying that Prevost shell from Prevost, and they got to put out that number. And that number's, it was at the time $700,000, I believe, just for the rolling chassis. Yeah. And I think that's even gone up since then. So, right off the bat, they place a purchase order for your coach. Prevost sends it to them whatever number of months later. They got to pay that bill. So they required a couple of progress payments while they were building the coach. And then when you pick up the coach, there's a final small balance. Newell, on the other hand, to get on the list, so to get a number, get in line, you got to pay the price. So it was, I believe, a 10% deposit just to get in their system, and that gets you into the design meetings and all that kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, they don't actually ask for the final payment till you pick up the coach, which to me is interesting way of doing business. I felt uncomfortable at times because they were doing all this work and without receiving any money for 7 months till they finished it. So,
but they had your 10% originally.
Yeah, by 10% for sure.
But you're getting into some complex.
Exactly. And
so if you chose to walk away with it, they would have had to find someone else to.
To be honest, I don't think that'd be a problem.
Yeah.
But I felt it's an interesting business strategy, and they have a lot of cash flow from all these coaches that they're constantly turning around, and they don't go through dealers, so everything really happens within their realm. So it's if that works for them, it definitely worked for us, because this was an unexpected purchase. Once we finally pulled the trigger and said, let's get rid of the King Aire, we got to come up with that 10%, which is fine, and then wait 7 months. That gave us the opportunity to get the King Aire fixed, sell the King Aire, and save up some money to put down what we wanted to put down. Fortunately for us, the King Aire was paid for, so it's a tough pill to swallow to have a loan on this, but we had to do it because we were so frustrated with not being able to use the King Aire when we wanted to. So.
Yeah, and with the marathon payment, kind of going back to that, the structure of it, do you remember like what percentage of a structure? Like, I'm just so curious.
This was probably June of last year.
So it's been, and then you focused on the Newell.
I would say there was something like $100,000 deposit, something like that, and then I believe it was like $500,000 was the first progress payment, and then another $500,000, and I basically was asking them, like, how does a bank loan work? How do you say, I want to buy a product like this, I'm going to get it in 6 or 7 months, I need maybe $1 million up front at some point along the process? I wasn't sure, and obviously if you have the cash and you just pay for it, it's easy, but for us, we knew that we couldn't just, pay for it all up front.
Yeah, and we have another video, complete tour of this coach, where Adam shares all the in-depth technology and everything going on. But moving forward, you're a younger RVer in the motor coach, high-end motor coach world. What do you see the future of the high-end motor coach world and technology and the younger generation coming in?
So, back when we got the King Aire, the systems in it were pretty horrific, and I remember when we went to the factory for doing our pickup, we'd be parking in the Newmar campground, and people would find out that I did AV for a living. So they're like, "Can you come help me?" I'm trying to get my outdoor radio to turn on with the, they had a stupid Bose knob or whatever. So these systems are so complicated for the general person to use, and this is what my company specializes in, is making things easy for them to use. So with most of the manufacturers that we're seeing, especially in the production stuff, you got 10 remotes, you're doing all this kind of stuff, and they don't appreciate or understand that when you're using your system, you just want it to work, and you want it to be easy. And my wife, who is not technically as savvy as I am, but is around this every single day, she got the TV to come on in the King Aire once, and it blew my mind, because it, for me, was so complicated, and it was frustrating, and we got 4K TVs in our coaches now, great, and then I look at the cable behind it, and it's an HDMI 1.2 cable, it wouldn't do 4K if so it's like, you're selling customers on this concept that you've got the latest and greatest in it, but you don't know how to build the infrastructure behind it to deliver that quality that you're selling them. There's no point of having a Ferrari if you have a Hyundai Elantra engine in it. It's not a Ferrari, but you think that it's a Ferrari because you're getting sold a Ferrari. So everything has to go together, and it's the weakest link which is going to make or break your system. So with some of these coaches, sometimes they were having like a media switch where you could send a source to all the different zones. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes they're all independent systems. So when I went to Marathon, they actually had a pretty decent system in their coach. I was pretty impressed with it. They used Crestron. They had this home theater guru that did their programming for that, and it definitely was a far step up than what I had seen in previous coaches. And then when I went to Newell, I said, would you be amenable to me doing something in the coach, something crazy, a little over the top? And they'd love to see what we could do, and they'd love to work with us to try to put in something that probably nobody has ever thought of before or done, for sure, into a coach like this. So a high learning curve for them. But what they were nervous about, as which they should be, going back to our previous conversation of how much deposit we had given them, if we had walked away from this, they have to support the coach owner.
Yeah.
And there's no way that they could get up to speed with the technology that we put into this coach quickly to support a new customer. So they were only willing to do this when I kind of signed off on saying, I will provide my own tech support for anything audio, video, or any of the customization stuff that we've done to this coach in regards to the audio, video. I will take full ownership of that, and they're basically big sigh of relief.
Yeah.
So they were definitely, there was some concerns at the beginning, but we've proven to them what we can do, and
you've pushed them, really. You know, Newell's, you know, they try to be cutting edge, but I think it takes someone like you to really push them to the next level, so it'll be interesting to see what they do.
And they were really willing to do anything, but as anything, asterisk, anything, please don't go back.
Yeah.
But they were really willing to listen to what my needs were and determine whether they were completely crazy or a one-off or something that they might introduce in the future. There, you know, once they saw it, they could understand what I was doing and why I wanted it, and then realize if they might not put it in everybody's coach, but they might then offer it and say, we can do this, here's an example of what we can do. And a lot of the things, because they have limited resources. Every company has limited resources, right? So I didn't want them to be burdened with some of this stuff, so I wanted this trick camera system that we'll probably see in the upcoming video. And I said, this is what I want, and I will build it. And they sent me all of their products to test it on. I built it in my shop and then sent it to them. And that took the burden off of them trying to learn or come up with a new system, because it wasn't what they're used to doing. And they were more than happy to do that. And that's what I really loved working with them, was their willingness to let me do my own thing and then put it in their coach and show them how it works. And they even came up with some better mousetraps than I could come up with. So a very, very good working relationship. For the audio-video system that we put in, I said, this is the cable I want to use. And they said, where can we get it? I said, I will send you a pallet of cable. We sent them full audio-video schematics with labels and cable numbers and full hookup diagrams. At that point, we weren't sure who was going to do the physical hookup, but we wanted to make sure that they pre-ran all the cables before they were doing all their finish work, which they did a great job on. We literally sent them everything to build the system, and then due to a lot of variables like COVID, you know, this was to do this coach in the time frame that we did with everything that was going on. It's a miracle that we have this right now. The supply chain has given everybody some concerns, and to this day it's even getting worse right now than it was back in August. But we got the awnings literally a week after they were supposed to paint them is when they received them. So there was definitely some struggles all along. But with that said, when it came down to the AV, I just went out there with one of my technicians and we did most of the audio video hookup, because it just takes an incredible amount of time to learn something new the first time. So I wanted to take that burden off of them and help them out. And I think it was a great relationship, though. They could see that I knew what I was doing, and this is what we do for a living. I'm not a DIY guy that, you know, likes, Sonos, I want to do Sonos and I love it and whatever. It's, you know, that's great, but this is literally what my whole company is based on, that was able to provide us with the money to purchase this coach.
Exactly.
So definitely this is not a DIY solution that we did here, and there's a lot of intricacies to it that we're still, it's a very manageable system, flexible system, so there's still things that I'm coming up with to do to it that I hadn't thought of before, but because we have the technology and the backbone in the system, we can literally do a ton of stuff with this coach.
Yeah, and you mentioned this is the same processor like that's in stadiums, the brains.
Yeah, it's completely overkill. We have enterprise level Cisco network in here. I think the network alone was like $12,000 for the router and the switches and the access points. Like totally above what anybody needs in a coach, right? But it's what we do and what I want to do, and we're sending audio over the network, and it's important to have that kind of, level of product in here. But Newell was shaking their head several times, and I said, this is what I want to do.
Going through this whole process of designing this new coach, what did you enjoy, or what excited you the most about it?
So, with the King Aire, we had, 4 different cabinet finishes. We had 4 different fabric finishes. We could customize a couple of things, but we're really limited in what our options were. With the Newell, it was amazing, and we were nervous going into the design because we didn't know exactly what we wanted. We hadn't had 5 Newells before, and we're like, okay, we have to have this, we need that. So it was definitely a little nerve-wracking, but what I was most excited about was when I was growing up and we were hanging out with this family in Canada that owned the dealership. They were a Triple E dealer.
Yeah, oh yeah. My leisure travel van is a Triple E, I believe.
This is 1980s Triple E dealer.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the deal was. They're from Canada. Triple E's from Canada. So they were they had, whether they were the top sales for the year, whatever, they had this big Class A, and it was literally the Devereaux edition. Devereaux was their last name. So I don't know, again, if Triple E did that. I was young at the time, but I was just so impressed that they had their own edition, right? Just for them. So the thing that I was excited about most was the fact that with Newell, we were going to create my edition. What I saw in an RV with my name everywhere on this, I was super, super excited about that. So again, bringing back memories from years and years ago, I wanted something that was just totally unique. And right from the beginning, when we sat down with James and Amber at Newell, we told them we were nervous because we didn't know what we wanted, and they were very, very good at walking us through. They do this for a living, obviously, but we had no idea what to expect, whether it was going to be like, pick a color, red or blue, and we'll figure it out from there. That definitely, we started with a theme, so I'd come up with this X theme that I wanted to try to do, so that gave us a good start, and then the King Aire was very blue. Everything about it was blue, so we wanted to go with reds, or just something different out of that. So I think with those two things is how we started off, and they took us right from the back of the coach right to the front. The design process took 3 days. They said some people take 1 day, some people take 2 weeks, coming in for an hour a day just to go over little bits. We hit it hard. We were basically there for 8 hours a day for 3 days, and we'd go look at that. It was great at the time. This is back in June, July. They had probably 15 units on the front line to sell.
Yeah.
So we were going at all the units. I'm like, I like that, I don't like that, I like this. So for us, it was spectacular. Unfortunately, nowadays, there's not a lot of used coaches out there. So they have a lot of pictures, obviously, of everything. But we were able to go through, and they started us the back, and they said, what size of shower do you want? And my wife, who's a fairly petite woman, wanted this massive shower. And we're like, okay, well, let's just keep it as this massive shower. And because in the King Aire, we had the second biggest shower. Not the biggest shower, the second. And a minute a day is what she spends in that shower. But she wants this massive shower. So anyway, we start at the back and we work our way forward. And what was great is we got to the coffee bar. And she's like, oh, I think I'd like that a little bit bigger. And like, okay, well, we can do 6 inches more in the coffee bar and take out 6 inches of the shower. They're not close to one another, right? And some of them are in slides and whatnot, but because they haven't built anything and they can customize, they can order any size slide, any shape, they can do whatever they want. At one point, I think we were 75 feet long, and they're like, okay, we gotta get down to the legal limit here. But just amazing process to go through, and very, very, very accommodating, very thoughtful, and all the decisions that they had made. And I think the first day, we were pretty exhausted by the end of the day, and literally we had picked the 4 fabrics for the ceiling. There's 4 fabrics in the ceiling, and that's all we got there. We're like, oh, how is this? But once you get going in a theme, in a direction, they really knew how to, get you the rest of the way home.
As we can see here, they got you all the way there.
They really did a good job, and to the point where you know, my wife was basically saying, you know, they have a design package that gives you all the accoutrement and the little things that are options, you know, in terms of the plates, the dishes, the knickknacks, or whatever. And my wife was like, Amber, just go ahead. You know us now. You know what to do. We trust you, and go ahead and do everything. And it was fantastic. So
That's
the
great.
rugs are all from her design. So very, very happy.
That's an awesome story. I can't thank you enough. It was really cool to kind of hear your, how this progressed from you getting to start in RVing to what we're looking at here. So can't thank you enough for sharing
It's
that.
definitely come a long way, and we're definitely in uncharted territory of what we were ever expecting. So it's fun times.
Yeah, well, I think the moral of this story is ladies and gentlemen, be careful how much YouTube you watch, because
Definitely.
it can get real expensive, as we see here.
It can.
Well, Adam, can't thank you
very
enough,
much.
sir. Greatly
Thank you.
appreciate the opportunity to see this beautiful coach and hear your story. I greatly appreciate all of you out there on YouTube liking these videos and subscribing to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Thanks again.